Yeah, this is still Velvet Dreamer, and I want to talk about gang stalking, um, what it is. Well, when you hear it described, a lot of times they'll be talking about being followed, red cars, white cars, people wearing the same color clothing, people doing hand signals like this. Um, Sometimes I'll say it's the NSA, it's the CIA, it's the FBI COINTEL program, it's MK Ultra mind control, it's energy weapons, it's all these things. But ultimately, it's spiritual. It's demonic. It's a lot like the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, when the demon was going person to person. Every time one person touched another person, it would jump from one person to another. I don't know if it's one demon or several demons. It could be both, but ultimately, the world system, the society we live in, is controlled by Satan and his demons, his minions, and his mind-controlled sock puppets, as Jeff Daniel would say. Um, my experience, though, is I'm going to admit it. A lot of what I experienced happened behind meth and an X. It was the combination of the two. I don't know if she was some kind of honey trap or what, but we were doing meth together, and we were up all night, and I would hear things that sound like some kind of taboo, satanic ritual orgy thing. And I'd go out in public, and people would mention that. They'd say things concerning my business that a stranger shouldn't know. They'd have conversations with me on the bus. It would seem like they'd know things they just shouldn't know, um, by any logical, natural reasoning. You know what I mean? And I was like, how could this be? Um, this person's just somebody walking down the street or at the bus stop on the bus or whatever, but it was pretty wild. At first, I freaked the hell out. I was like, this is crazy. I thought I was just tripping on the meth. But there were some things that just could not be explained by, we were just high. These people would know my business. The person I was talking to, I could reach out and pinch him. Um, I do have some physical evidence. One time, I was walking down the street and I saw this guy bending over behind the column of this building, and I had lost a glove about a week before that a friend had given me. And he continued walking my way. I walked past him, and I looked to see what he was bending down for, and I see the glove that I lost a week ago. So that was physical evidence confirming a lot of what I had been experiencing. That a lot of people would say, oh, you're just tripping on the meth. But there it was in my hand, and it was the glove. That it wasn't just some glove that looked like it. It was the same brand, same design. I still had one of them, the other one, and it was the opposite, the left hand, right hand. So I think whenever I'd lose something, they'd come up behind me and find it, put it in my way. uh, all sorts of things. One time when I had an apartment, I came in with my roommate and I said, that VHS player's out of, well, it was a VHS CD player, but I said that VHS CD player's out of place. And he's like, yeah, it is. All sorts of things. The neighbor upstairs, I'd walk into the bathroom, the footsteps upstairs would go into the bathroom. I'd walk out of the bathroom, the footsteps would walk out of the bathroom. So I looked at my roommate and I was like, we were just looking at each other like, this is strange. And I stepped forward 3 steps, it stepped forward 3 steps, stepped backward 3 steps, the footsteps came back 3 steps. Just things like that, and we were tripping. We were like, what's going on here? Can they see through the ceiling, through their floor? The next door neighbors also. That's where I think it really started in. The neighbors next door had excuse me. I was trying to figure out where all these crazy sounds were coming from. And I walked back into my apartment and there was a lot of noise coming from next door. It was past the noise ordinance. And I hadn't slept in 2 days, so I went over to the neighbor, knocked on his door. I hear on the other side of the door this guy saying, oh, that sounds like so-and-so's knock. So he comes to the door. I say, hey man, can you turn down your stereo? He's like, which one? Because he had 2 stereos playing actually. And I was saying the one with the bass line going, and he says, well, if you don't like it, call the cops. I live here too. So I went back over to my apartment where my ex was. She was there. I called the cops. And, he told me to. He wanted me to. I was trying to just ask him to turn his stereo down a bit. And that's it. Next thing I know, they're slamming doors and hollering and screaming. I'm going, what a fucking... And they started running down the hallway, and it sounded like they were slapping a ruler against the walls or something. And just all kinds of bizarre shit. And the cops did come and talk to him, but after that, I was like, there's something going on here. I remember one time I was walking to my apartment, and there was an inverted pentagram painted, and it said, Hail Satan. The next time I walked by it, it was gone. And I'm like, wow. So, well, there's a lot of these stories. I could tell you probably 1,000. I can't get into it all right now, but basically I think the meth opened up the door for that. It thinned the veil between this realm and the next into a demonic hive mind that set about harassing me, and I know others. I've talked to many others that have gone through this, both people who did meth and people who didn't. There's plenty of targeted individuals. If you look on YouTube, such as Catherine Horton, she doesn't seem like a meth user to me. She was a physicist for CERN. So, I think it happens to certain people regardless of whether they use meth or not. And I think if you're a targeted individual, a true targeted individual and not an agent, then It's because you've awoke. You've woken up out of the Matrix. And this is supposed to be an age of awakening, a golden age, which could be a new thing or a good thing or a bad thing. There's this, I know that Satan's going to deceive a lot of people in the end times. Say, oh, this is the religion, this is the way to go, this is the awakening of consciousness, when really it's just a big deception. But there is a godly form of awakening when you awake out of the Matrix and you know that this planet Earth is on lockdown, so to speak. It's a prison planet. Ever since ancient Egypt and Babylon, they've had this thing pretty well wrapped up. And I don't think this is anything new, even though they call it the New Age. If you read Genesis 6 in the book of Enoch, 200 demons fell to earth. Well, angels. They became demons. They became the Watchers. The Archons, as spoken of by the Gnostics. And they taught the arts, they taught magic, they taught the art of ironworking and war. But they weren't just going to let humankind have all that without some sort of price to pay. They want to be worshipped like God. I've been through a lot in my life. I'm 49 years old, almost 50, and they've said I've had things like bipolar, ADD, and this and that and the other, but even before I started doing the meth, if I would get so-called manic, people would have all kinds of crazy things to say. All sorts of demonic manifestations would happen. People would say things. But this is my first video, and I'm just out here in nature because I believe the only escape out of this matrix is to get out of society and get back in tune with God and nature. Get some clear air, sunshine. Ultimately, the goal of these gang stalkers, this demonic activity going on, is to get you to kill yourself or go off and kill them, get institutionalized, thrown in jail. I've been set up, put in jail over this ex that I was with. But if this is happening to you and you're a targeted individual, it's because they've had their eye on you for all your life. Trust me on this. They know who you are. They're the Watchers. They call that a familiar spirit. It's been watching you all your life. But God's also been watching you your entire life. And there are angels too. Even in some of my worst moments, there was an encouraging word from one or two of them. Yeah, it seemed like there was a couple angels in there with all this demonic gang stalking too. But I just got a lot to say, and I don't want to get into all of it now. I plan on bringing forth one subject at a time. I think I'm just going to start with what gang stalking is, and go from there. But ultimately, it's a spiritual thing. If you're pointing at any one person, any one group of people, any one aspect of it, you're off base. And that is a part of it, but it includes the whole thing. This is Still Love the Dreamer, and peace out.